have a guest in the studio with us, and we are fast approaching exam season with May and June soon upon us. So with us here in the studio now is Educational Consultant Gary Heayn, and we were actually introduced to you, Gary, last year as part of our Mystery Guest segment.
Can I just say, as much as I love the games and things, I did enjoy the Mystery Guest segment. I always panicked when that came on because I'm terrible at it.
It's true. I do remember us doing those segments. But yeah, anyway, Gary is here with us today because he is going to share his experience, his hints, his tips, a little bit about exams and revision, basically. So, Gary, thank you for coming in today. And yeah, we're really grateful for you to come in, and we're going to get some inside advice from you, should we say.
Well, everyone revises in different ways. I'm 32 now, and it seems like an age, and it was an age, since I was last in school, and I was terrible at revision. I got anxious about the thought of revising. I don't know why that was, and I was one of those people that the very last day before the exam, that's when I'd suddenly get enough energy and enough lack of anxiety to actually do all the revision. That worked for me weirdly. I don't understand it. It worked for me. It doesn't work for everyone, though. Everyone's different.
Everyone's different, but we all have the same basic brain, and our brain does work in certain ways. So you can take, I'm not going to go heavily into psychology today, but you can take bits from that, and you can take it into lessons for revision. I mean, I was the same. I was absolutely at school. I left all my homework to the last minute. I left everything to the last minute. I was always getting slated, but I knew I was good at subjects. I knew I needed to do something. And about this time of year, before my what was called O-levels, when I was a kid, call them GCSEs now. About this sort of Easter time, I decided I was going to change, and it was a radical thing, and I made myself do it, and it worked for me because I did a little bit of research, and I thought, that's how the brain works. That's the advice, and hopefully I can share a bit of that now.
Fantastic. So when is actually exam season? Because I've long forgotten when it actually is.
It's easy to spot. You'll see lots of teenagers with scared looks on their faces. It starts generally. The exams start. The GCSEs start last week in May, first week in June,
right.
And they go over. It depends what exams you do, but most of the core exams last couple of weeks in May. First 3 or 4 weeks in June, they're the same all over the country, so all the children will be going through exactly the same experience.
And I want to know a bit more about your role. So your official title we've got down as Educational Consultant. What does that involve, and are you based in a specific school or location?
Not at the moment. No. What I've worked in comprehensive schools. Secondary schools and special needs schools in Rochdale, Oldham and Cornwall. So I've worked with young people, mainly from 11 to 16-year-olds. I have worked in sixth forms as well, so 17, 18-year-olds. Now I have that experience with the classroom. I have that experience more lately with children that need a bit more support, so more of a one-to-one, small groups, and children that generally don't get on well with education, children that have been put off through no fault of their own usually. Maybe they've got challenges, special needs in terms of dyslexia, dyscalculia, all the reasons why they can't access the same materials as the rest of us.
I feel like it's that same old sort of story we see time and time again, where it's almost like a kid's book where you see lots of different animals all told to climb a tree, ranging from a fish to a monkey. Well, obviously the monkey's going to get up there the fastest. Well, no, but that's not how education works, is it? There's no one sort of one size fits all. Everyone learns in their own different ways, regardless of disabilities, abilities. Everyone has still got that ability to learn. You've just got to find the right thing for that person or for yourself.
Absolutely. Children would be struggling and they think, I can't read, but that would give them a really bad opinion of education. And sometimes they would come to us and they would be embarrassed to talk about it. And I said, well, look, if somebody is visually impaired, for instance, we would give them aids. We would give them a stick. We would give them a guide dog. We would give them something to enhance that. Or, and we will give you a tool for that. We'll give you some glasses. We will make sure that the material you read is in the right print so you can access it. And that's levelling up. That's what we all deserve.
Yeah, and I feel like we live in a world now where we are we have to be more inclusive and acceptable of everyone's different needs.
Yeah.
I can only talk from personal experience. I remember when I was taking my exams, because of the muscle weakness in my arms and everything, you've got like a 2-hour exam where you'd have to be writing, and I wouldn't be able to physically hold the pen and do it for that long. So you make adaptations, and the school enabled you to have a laptop, and I was able to, instead of handwriting, I was able to type some. So it's little changes that can make a huge difference, isn't it?
Absolutely, and the support and extra time for exams. It depends what you want the exam to do. Is the exam testing your memory recall? Is it testing how much you know about the topic? And nowadays we have different subjects. Some subjects have a lot of coursework in, for instance. So if it's art or design and technology, you're building, you have that opportunity to do things. Some of us can access things more easily through academic subjects. We're all different. But I think at the end of the day, inside, in the modern world, we can compensate for any sort of physical disabilities, any sort of learning disabilities, and we're getting at the core soul of the person. We are all valued the same. We're all exactly the same value.
You actually mentioned coursework there. It brings me on to something I want to talk about as well. I remember back at school, a lot of what we did, a high percentage was based on coursework, with a smaller percentage, luckily for myself and a few other people who don't do well under pressure, was based on exams. And sometimes a course can be entirely coursework based. I found personally for myself that was always the best thing for me, because I had the time to think. I didn't feel pressured in the exam. I felt the pressure and I felt the stress. Is there a problem with stress amongst young people, do you think, at this time of year?
I think there is, definitely. I mean, there always has been. And I think in the modern world, whether things are more stressful or whether we're more aware of it, because I think our emotions, we have emotional exchanges on social media 1,000 times more powerful than I did, you know. But there are, and I think it's really important to state straight away that, and I don't want to get shot for saying this, but these exams aren't that important, guys. No, they're not. They're an exam. Mm-hmm. You do badly, you can retake it again in November. You can retake it again at college. It might be a bit awkward for you. It's not the end of the world. It honestly isn't. It seems like it when you're 15 and the whole world... I remember that feeling. It's, you know, it's like everything is so raw, you know, at that age. But it's not that important, guys. It isn't. And to parents as well, please support, encourage, but repeat this message. It's not that important. You can, you know, and hopefully in a minute we'll give you some techniques that just make it feel better for you as well.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's probably one of the positive things about today's world, is that there's a lot more awareness around mental health and anxiety that back in our day, like it was that long ago.
Easy
but
now.
To be fair, a lot of things have changed since back when we did our exams. And I think the awareness of mental health now, we would never have had teachers back in the day that would say, you know, chill, it's fine. Like there is so much pressure to succeed and do well in these exams, and almost in the media as well. I don't know your thoughts on this, that there's been a lot of articles recently about whether we should be testing kids at such a young age. I don't know what your thoughts on that are.
I think it's tricky. I think, remember, the vast majority is sort of like the middle, if you like. Joe and Jenny average, we get through it, you know. And I think it is, we're talking about the extremes, high end and low end, that can have difficulties, because every percentage of any human population has difficulties. But you go back to Socrates and the Greek philosophers. I'll probably get muddled up now, and I get a load of people calling in, but I can't remember whether it's Socrates or one of those guys around there was saying words along the lines of, you will test somebody at this age, this age, this age, and this age. Funnily enough, those ages he was talking about 3,000, 4,000 years ago, line up perfectly with Key Stage 2, Key Stage 3, Key Stage 4. So I think you have to have some form of test. And I think things do go full circle. There was a bit of elitism perhaps in education. A reaction to that over the last 30 years was to have this attitude that everybody can achieve everything. And I think that's not right either. Education has to be a bit of a filtering mechanism. It has to be, look, we value every job in society. So we don't want to force everybody to go to university or force everybody to do a degree. And I think that's being realised now with a lot of, for instance, T levels and things like that at sixth form colleges. I mean, when I went to school, you know, I went to sixth form in the 1980s. We did O-levels. A small percentage of people that did their O-levels went on to do A-levels, and then an even smaller percentage of those people went on to university. Some went to polytechnics to do a more technical. Some would have gone to catering college or whatever. Now, there was a view that, okay, well, let's make everybody go to university. So they upgraded a lot of polytechnics and became universities, and it just became a different system. But I do remember people saying, in Germany, for instance, where their education system at the time was valued, they were saying, well, an engineer at a polytechnic has exactly the same status as somebody with a BSc Imperial College. It's just different. And I think we're recognising that now, certainly at the sixth form colleges. I mean, I call it a sixth form. That's the wrong term now. It is a college of further education. You can go there after you've done your GCSEs. You can then go to one of the excellent colleges we have in Cornwall. And don't forget, we have fantastic schools and colleges in Cornwall. We
do.
We attract the best staff. They want to live here.
Yeah, they do.
And we've got the best environment. So I think it's levelling a bit. And there's the range of courses now. I said it was just A-levels when I was there. There's T-levels. There's people programming. There's people preparing food. Yes, there's people. There's an engineering. They've got a workshop with lathes up there and CNC machines. It's fantastic.
Video game creation and design, that gets me. I'm seeing a big game myself, and that's over at Falmouth, heavy based on the game development there. And we see them at events like Geek Fest showing off their products, and it's fantastic, the kind of stuff you see there.
Isn't that? It's because the stereotypical 9-to-5 job isn't always the route you have to take now. People can work from home, people can earn money online, and there's so many different fields of occupations you can go in. So, yeah, it's an exciting time.
I want to ask you, have you got any sort of hints and tips for any students out there now, young or old, going into this season? Maybe it's not even GCSEs, maybe it's going into A-levels, FDSCs, BSCs, all the different types of courses. How can they tackle stress? What do you think could help people?
Well, I was looking on the way in, and one of the first things I wanted to talk about was the mental health side of things. And I was going to have a little crib sheet with just memorise a couple of the local mental health trusts. I gave up in the end because there are so many. There's so many opportunities. It's a fantastic area. So Google it and find the one that's right for you. Young people's mental health charities, Head Start, Cornwall, I believe. There's a whole range, and it would be, rather than list them. And what I would say is for your for your revision, was that a Freudian slip?
It's a whole different subject.
Let's pray, there you go. Let's have a plan. If you have a plan, as soon as you have a plan, you can relax a bit. My daughter's 15 at the moment, and she's just got her mock results. The last couple of years, obviously, has been incredibly different as well, because schools weren't geared up for not actually having exams because of COVID. So we had to go back and look at previous tests, and mock results suddenly became ultra important, and we had to do estimations. They were planning the same thing for this year, but of course then restrictions have gone again, and touch wood will stay. So there was lots of mocks. So they've got a lot of data, but the result of that is they've been testing children a lot as well. So, but anyway, she's gone through that, and the one thing I've got to do is do a plan. I mean, I remember sitting in my bedroom, lonely 15-year-old, just before Christmas, thinking, how am I going to do this? I'm terrible at doing exams. I was always that kid, that would, leave his homework to the last minute. And the panic on a Sunday night, it wasn't very nice. Yeah. So I was determined, and I said, right, have a plan. We're all different. I can tell you my plan and some basic ideas. We're all slightly different, but at least have a plan.
Very fair. I think it's fair as well to say, as much as you need to plan, have your revision, sort of down to pat, ready to go, to have some breaks.
Absolutely. That is part of the plan. Yes. I mean, what my plan would be is, first of all, the knowledge of psychology means the human brain doesn't really do well after more than half an hour absorbing something. Half an hour, maximum time, stop and have a break. So I would arrange I would arrange my revision, especially over the Easter holidays, this 2 weeks, and you've got half term as well before the exams coming up, another 6 weeks' time. I would arrange it so that I'd plan my day very similar to school day, really. Have a bit of an extra lie-in, but 9 o'clock, half an hour on whatever subject. I'll come back to that. 10-minute break, another half an hour, maybe a half an hour break. Go out, have lunch, and repeat that sort of pattern. Half an hour, 10-minute, 15-minute break. Do that 4 or 5 times a day, and by having that plan, you will relax. I wouldn't cram the night before the exam because it might have worked for you.
Yeah,
but it
I was a
doesn't
bit
generally.
worried about saying about that on there because I thought it's probably not the best thing to say. It was something that happened to work for me, and I don't think it's a great thing for everyone else. But for me, in my strange brain, it just sort of stayed there, and I'm like, I remember everything.
It does show we were unique. It may well have been that you were absorbing facts in another matter, in another way. It may have been coming from somewhere else. But so I do that chunking. I have that plan. Very simply, for instance, let's say you're doing 8 subjects. What I would do is I'd take each of those 8 subjects and split it into subtopics. Okay, it doesn't matter what they are. It could be science, history, Spanish, whatever. Split them into subtopics. So chunk it down, and that will suit your topic. Could be 10 chunks each, whatever. And then I would name those, colour code them as well is useful. And then I would split them. And so I would say, right, I've got 8 topics. I'll do my first half hour of revision is subject 1, topic 1. Then my next half hour is subject 2, topic 2. So it could be maths, topic 1, English, topic 1, biology, topic 1, Spanish, topic 1. And go through that until you've got to the end of all the topic 1s. And then start at topic 2
Okay.
for English, topic 2 for maths. Also, I would put it on a planner. Just get one of these wall planners and have it somewhere visual. And now this is where your own style dictates. If you're a very visual person, use a lot of colours, a lot of pictures, a lot of underlining. If you're more of a written person, write it down. You can use Excel spreadsheets, are very good for this because you can do the colour. And if you make any changes, because you will make changes, you can do it quickly.
Yeah, and that's like we said at the beginning, wasn't it? Everybody has a different style. So as somebody in your role, when it comes to sort of giving people advice and supporting people, I suppose it might be a bit tricky because some people are very visual learners where they do go by a strict revision timetable or colour coding or whatever works for them, whereas other people maybe a much more relaxed approach, or they might prefer to be head in a textbook. So I guess for you as well, in your job, you have to be pretty open to supporting people in different ways.
Very open, but there is a lot of... The basics from biology do sort of favour certain styles. If you look at education, they'll say, well, visual, audio, or kinesthetic learners.
Yeah.
Okay, we are all those things. But if you look at a human being, you look at our sense, we are visual. We are primarily a visual being. Our eyesight is better than most animals. Our nose is rubbish compared to a dog. Our hearing is rubbish compared to a cat or a dog. But our eyes are better, at least as good as. And you look at the size of the brain that's devoted to our eyes, it's huge. A visual cortex is massive. So we do pick up things visually. Also actively. So if you colour code things, for instance, for me, biology is green, physics is blue, chemistry is red. And, that is the way I see it. I always have done. I'm a bit of a synesthete. I mix colours and subjects together anyway, and sounds. So that works for me. You've got to chunk things down as well. You've got to chunk your revision notes down. So let's say you've got topic 1 for maths. It might be, a whole chapter in a textbook, like thousands of words. Well, you break it down onto what's called flashcards. So you get some little pieces of cardboard, you break them down. You don't write all your notes out again.
No.
You make notes. And actually, that first stage of revision is making the notes because you're actively revising. You're not just reading something. You're reading it in that book, you're processing it in your brain, and you're regurgitating it as completely different words. You're bad English, little phrases, some words in red, pictures, diagrams, and that's your revisions. It's active revision.
That's really good. You sort of addressed every single possible way of learning in one go. I like that as well. That's my other half is a massive sort of visual learner. She'll write things on flashcards. She'll do all the underlining, different colours. Like, goodness me, she can journal like the best of them. And she's been learning Japanese in this way. And doing fantastic for it. Heck, helped us get our What's on Here the other day, didn't it? Because we were actually looking
it's
at
rubbed
somewhere.
off on you as well.
It has.
It
It was somewhere in Japan. I noticed. Oh, that's actually two of the different languages together. That's in Japan. Oh, flipping heck! I remembered. But absolutely, it's really, really fantastic. And also, if people don't like revising, because let's be honest, a lot of people don't like revising. you've done a lot of revision very quickly in one go without even realising it, really.
Yeah, and you've chunked it. Audio, for instance. I mean, not when I was at school, but a few years later, I was in the first play I was ever in, amateur dramatics, was Marriage of Figaro, and I was suddenly given this part. I had to learn 500 lines, and I was cast late, so I had to learn 500 lines. I was doing an awful lot of driving at the time, so I went through each line I had to do, and I recorded on we have these old-fashioned things called cassette tapes.
What is that?
Mystery magic.
I placed said device in the car and would drive hundreds of miles listening to myself going on and on about these lines. Rewind, push, rewind, push, rewind. It worked, I was line perfect. So if that's your way, do it. Stick it on a podcast, podcast yourself. The other thing is you will never learn anything as well as if you try and teach it to somebody else. So my 15-year-old, I'm sort of getting her to coach my 10-year-old who's just started big school. And so they, by if you think you know something, try teaching it to somebody else.
It's a method that's used a lot in technology and web development called rubber ducking.
Oh, right.
I've read into this a little bit. It goes back to Google. I don't know if it goes back before Google, but I know that the developers are sort of encouraged to have a rubber duck or some kind of sort of toy or something that they can explain the coding that they can't understand to that thing, and it changes the brain's perspective. Yes. And it changes their ability to look at their own work and go, oh, actually, I can fix that without even getting halfway through. At my first job, I actually got a friend to do that to me so many times when he was trying to fix his own code. He was up here with his level, and he still is. Could not understand what he had done, and we were in the same job. But by the time he was halfway through explaining it to me, and my brain had gone, what? He'd fixed it. I went, you're welcome, and sort of looked back like I knew what he was talking about. But it works.
Rubber ducking. I'm going to make a note of that.
Rubber ducking. Have a look at it. It's a
one.
fantastic theory. It's absolutely great. Whenever anybody has a problem, I say, explain it to me. And they go, you won't understand it. I know. Explain it to me.
You've just admitted that you'll probably talk to inanimate objects as well.
I do.
I imagine you with an actual rubber duck.
At home, for this exact purpose, when I'm doing any web development, I have a rubber duck that looks like Chewbacca. He's called Chewbacca. Anyway, we'll move on from that one.
Yeah.
We're very quickly running out of time, Gary, but is there any sort of last-minute hints, tips, tricks, or advice you'd like to give to anyone who is coming up to that sort of exam time and needs to talk about revision or exams or do something?
Yeah, apart from chunking it, treat days as well. Have treat days. To be honest, if you've been revising hard all week and the night before your first exam, don't revise. Okay. Mum and Dad say, go to the cinema, we'll take you out for a family meal. If you'll know that you've revised, don't confuse yourself. Just go out, enjoy yourself, take regular breaks. My daughter's, I said we got this 2 weeks off for Easter now. She's got a revision programme sorted. So she's got a little job in a cafe in town. She's only taken 1 or 2 days of that. She's been out with her friends today. And she's got her revision planned. And if you front load it as well, I know it sounds terrible, especially to bit of a gender stereotype here. Boys, we're rubbish. All right, do what the girls do because they're amazing. But do it front load it. So do it this week, and you'll enjoy yourself a lot more next week because you've broken. Yeah, you've broken the ice. You've broken the back of it. Whatever expression, these expressions are there for a reason. They work.
Don't do it the way I did it. That's probably the best way of saying it right now.
Don't be a pudge.
Don't be a pudge. Well, that's a lesson for life, isn't it?
But I think as well, the thing that I've took, probably the most obvious thing that's come out of this is the word balance. I think, and this can apply not just to the kids that are studying now, it applies to all of us in life. Then we all need to have a work-life balance, social, and it's the same aspect of with the exams, isn't it? You've got to have that balance of focused set revision and actually treat yourself and look after yourself.
Absolutely. And remember, you're only racing against yourself. Do not compare yourself to anybody else. No. Everybody's in their own race. They have their own issues. My daughter herself she's doing pretty well, but she has friends that are utterly amazing, getting 9s and everything. Right. But she's not going to compare herself to that. There's no point. You're in your own race.
Exactly.
And for goodness sake, communicate to people. Say to people, I'm struggling here, because there are a huge amount of places out there, and hopefully maybe we can link to some. I didn't want to list them out, but there's a load.
There are. Mental health is a huge point,
absolutely.
and it needs to be talked about.
Yeah.
Gary, been fantastic having you in. Thank you very much for coming in. I think we could talk this to death for quite a long time. I wish I could have had you around, actually, during my GCSE times. I'll tell you that. But it's been absolutely brilliant having you in. Thank you for coming in. Hopefully we can talk to you again soon.
Thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you very much.